Hello, can you hear me? Hello, people of YouTube. I wanted to go ahead and read to you a book today, so I decided to read Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott, a really old book. First off, we're going to look at the details of this book. It's a coming-of-age novel written by American novelist Louisa May Alcott, originally published in 2 volumes in 1868 and 1869. The story follows the lives of the 4 March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. The details of their passage from childhood to womanhood, loosely based on the lives of the author and her 3 sisters. It is classified as an autobiographical, or semi-autobiographical novel. Little Woman was an immediate commercial and critical success, and blah, 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 blah. You get the point. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be reading. Now, obviously we used to read books like this when we were in school, and I kind of miss those days. Figured I might bring it back for my audience. And, I do kind of have the voice for it, I suppose. And I really hope you enjoy. And if you do enjoy, please tell me in the comment section, like the video and all that stuff. And if you offer a book for me to read, I may read it out loud for you. I might make a full video. Now, I'm sorry if the camera is swaying a bit. I'm holding it with my hand. I don't really have a camera stand, and my room is filled up with junk, and, you get it. It's a little difficult. My family's very poor and stuff. I'm recording with my phone, and I can only record for so long, and you get all that. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. I know they will remember all I said to them, that they will be loving children to you, will do their duty faithfully, fight their bosom enemies bravely, and conquer themselves so beautifully that when I come back to them, I may be fonder and prouder than ever of my little women. Now, I was told that this book does have illustrations in it, and my, that is very beautiful. Look at that. The wilderness was far more beautiful back in those days, obviously. It's the 1800s. Now, reading this from Full Text Archive, I am going to be recording this from that website. All of this content is from that website and is subject to whatever critical or whatever, consequences that the website is also, subject to. Not going to take credit for any of what you see or read from this page, and none of this is my own work. I'm not ad-libbing any of this. I'm just reading directly from the page. All illustrations and characters, all wording, everything is either from this website or the original author, and you should pay respects to them. Chapter 1. Playing Pilgrims. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, grumbled Jo, lying on the rug. It's so dreadful to be poor, sighed Meg, looking down at her old dress. I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls nothing at all, added little Amy, with an injured sniff. We've got father and mother, and each other, said Beth contentedly from her corner. The 4 young faces on each the firelight shone brightened at the cheerful words, but darkened against as Jo said sadly, We haven't got father, and shall not have him for a long time. She didn't say perhaps never, but each silently added it, thinking of father far away, where the fighting was. Nobody spoke for a minute. Then Meg said in an altered tone, the reason Mother proposed not having any presents this Christmas was because it was going to be a hard winter for everyone, and she thinks we ought to spend money for pleasure. When our men are suffering so in the army, we can't do much, but we can make our little sacrifices, and ought to do so gladly. But I'm afraid I don't. And Meg shook her head, as she thought regretfully of all the pretty things she wanted. But I don't think the little... Sorry, I gotta catch my breath. But I don't think the little we should spend would do any good. We've each got $1, and the army wouldn't be much helped by our giving that. I agree not to expect anything from Mother or you, but I do want to buy Undine and Sintrin for myself. I've um I've wanted to I've wanted it for so long, said Joe, who was a bookworm. I plan to spend mine in new music, said Beth, with little sigh, which no one heard but the harsh brush and kettle holder. I shall get a nice box of Faber's drawing pencils. I really need them, said Amy decidedly. Mother didn't say anything about our money, and she didn't wish to give up everything. Let's each buy what we want, and have a little fun. I'm sure we work hard enough to earn it, cried Joe, examining the heels of her shoes in a gentlemanly manner. I know I do teaching those tiresome I know I do teaching those tiresome children nearly all day, when I'm longing to enjoy myself at home, began Meg in the complaining tone again. You don't have half such a hard time as I do, said Joe. How would you like to be shut up for hours with a nervous, fussy old lady who keeps you trotting, is never satisfied, and worries you till you are ready to fly out the window and cry? It's a naughty Fred, but I do think washing dishes and keeping things tidy is the worst work in the world. It makes me cross, and my hands get so stiff. I can't practice well at all, and Beth looked at her rough hands with a sigh that anyone could hear that time. I don't believe any of you suffer as I do, cried Amy, for you don't have to go to school with impertinent girls who plague you if you don't know your lessons, and laugh at your dresses, and label your father if he isn't rich, and insults you when you lose when your nose isn't nice. If you mean libel, or libel, I'd say so, and not talking about libel. Label. If you mean label, I'd say so, and not talk about labels, as if Papa was a pickle bottle, advised Joe, laughing. I know what I mean, and I needn't be satirical about it. It's proper to use good words and improve your vocabulary, returned Amy with dignity. Oh, maybe they're misspelling it on purpose. That would be funny. Don't peck at one another, children. Don't you wish we had the money Papa lost when we were little, Joe? Dear me, how happy and good we'd be if we had no worries, said Meg. Who could remember better times? You said the other day you thought we were a deal happier than the King children, for they were fighting and fretting all the time in spite of their money. So did Beth. Well, I think we are, for though we do have to work, we make fun of ourselves and are pretty jolly set, as Joe would say. So does use such slang words. Joe does use such slang words, observed Amy, and with a reproving look at the long figure stretched on the rug, Joe immediately sat up, put her hands in her pockets, and began to whistle. Don't, Joe. It's so boyish. That's why I do it. I detest rude, unladylike girls. I hate affected piminy chits. Ooh. Birds in their little nests agree, sang Beth and the peacemaker with such a funny face that both sharp voices softened to a laugh, and the pecking ended for that time. Really, girls, you're both to blame, said Meg, beginning to lecture her elder sisterly fashion. In her elder sisterly fashion, you are old enough to leave off boyish tricks and to behave better, Josephine. It didn't matter so much when you were a little girl, but now you are so tall and turn up your hair. You should remember that you are a young lady. Hold on a second. I need to... No. Where did it go? Oh. I don't know where my bottle of water... Oh, there it is. Hold on a second. Hold on. I gotta get a drink real quick. My throat's dry. Thank you very much for waiting. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, where were we? You should remember that you are a young lady. I am not. I'm not. And if turning up my hair makes me one, I'll wear it in two tails till I'm 20, cried Jo, pulling off her net and shaking down a chestnut mane. I hate to think I've grown up and be Miss March and wear long gowns and look as prim as China Aster. It's bad enough to be a girl, anyways. When I like boys, when I like boys' games and work and manners, I can't get over my disappointment in not being a boy, and it's worse than ever now, for I'm dying to go and fight with Papa, and I can only stay home and knit like a poky old woman. And Jo shook the blue army sock till the needles rattled like castanets, and her ball bounded across the room. Poor Jo. It's too bad, but it can't be helped, so you must try and be contented with making your name boyish and playing brother to us girls, said Beth, stroking the rough head with a hand that all the dishwashing and dusting in the world could not ungentle in its touch. As for you, Amy, continued Meg, you are altogether too particular and prim. Your airs are funny now, but you'll grow up an affected little goose if you don't take care. I like your nice manners and refined ways of speaking, when you don't try to be elegant, but your absurd words are as bad as Jo's slang. If Jo is a tomboy and Amy is a goose, what am I? What am I, please? Asked Beth, ready to share the lecture. You are a dear and nothing else, answered Meg warmly, and no one contradicted her, for the mouse was the pet of the family. As young readers like to know how people look, we will take this moment to give them a little sketch of the four sisters, who sat knitting away in the twilight, while the December snowfalls fell quietly without the fire crackled cheerfully within. It was a comfortable room, though the carpet was faded and the furniture was very plain, for a good picture or two hung on the walls, books filled the recesses, chrysanthemums and Christmas roses bloomed in the windows, and a pleasant atmosphere of the home peace pervaded it. Sounds like a very warm and cozy home. Margaret, the eldest of the four, was 16 and very pretty, being plump and fair, with large eyes, plenty of soft brown hair, a sweet mouth, and white hands, of which she was rather vain. 15-year-old Jo was very tall, thin, and brown, and reminded one of a colt, for she never seemed to know what to do with her long limbs, which were very much in her way. She had a decided mouth, a comical nose, and sharp gray eyes which appeared to see everything, and were by turns fierce, funny, and thoughtful. Her long, thick hair was her one beauty, and it was usually bundled into a net to be out of her way. Round shoulders had Jo. Sorry, sorry, my mouth is so dry. I'm sorry. Round shoulders had Jo big. Round shoulders had Jo, big hands and feet, a flyaway look in her clothes, and the uncomfortable appearance of a girl who was rapidly shooting up into a woman and didn't like it. Elizabeth, or Beth, as everyone called her, was a rosy, smooth-haired, bright-eyed girl of 13, with a shy manner, a timid voice, and a peaceful expression which was seldom disturbed. Her father called her Little Miss Tranquillity, and the name suited her excellently, for she seemed to live in a happy world of her own, only venturing out to meet the new whom she trusted and loved. Amy, though the youngest, was the most important person in her own opinion at least. A regular snow maiden, with blue eyes and yellow hair curling on her shoulders, pale and slender, and always carrying herself like a young lady mindful of her manners. What the characters of the four sisters were, we will leave to be found out. The clock struck 6, and having swept up the hearth. 1 second. The clock struck 6, and having swept up the hearth, Beth put a pair of slippers down to warm. Somehow, the sight of the old shoes had a good effect upon the girls, for Mother was coming, and everyone brightened to welcome her. Meg stopped lecturing and lightened the lamp. Amy got out of the easy chair without being asked to, and Jo forgot how tired she was as she sat up to hold the slippers near the blaze. They were all quite worn out. Marmee must have a new pair. I thought I'd get some with my $1, said Beth. No, I shall, cried Amy. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I'm the oldest, began Meg. But Jo cut in with a decided, I'm the man of the family now that Papa is away. I shall provide the slippers, for he told me to take especial care of Mother while he was gone. I'll tell you what I'll do, said Beth. Let's each get her something for Christmas, and not get anything for ourselves. That's like you, dear. What will you get? Exclaimed Jo. Everyone thought soberly for a minute. Then Meg announced, as if the idea was suggested by the sight of her own pretty hands, I shall give her a nice pair of gloves. Army shoes, best to be had, cried Jo. Some handkerchiefs all hemmed, said Beth. I'll get a little bottle of cologne. She likes it, and it won't cost much, so I'll have some left to buy me pencils, added Amy. How will you give the things? Asked Meg. Put them on the table and bring her in to see her open the bundles. Don't you remember how we used to do it on birthdays? Answered Jo. I used to be so frightened when it was my turn to sit at the chair, with the crown on, and see all come marching around to give presents with a kiss. I liked things, and the kisses, but it was dreadful to have to sit looking at me while I opened the bundles, said Beth, who was toasting her face and the bread for tea at the same time. Let Marmee think of we are getting things for ourselves, and then we surprise her. We must go shopping tomorrow afternoon, Meg. There is so much to do about the play for Christmas night, said Jo, marching up and down with her hands behind her back and her nose in the air. I don't mean to act any more after this time. I'm getting... That's Ron the rooster, if you can hear him. He's really going off, huh? I don't know what has gotten into him. I don't mean to act any more after this time. I'm getting too old for such things, observed Meg, who was as much a child as ever about dressing up frolics. This is such old English, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to come back to this later. I think I'm going to go ahead and give this a break now. I think the rooster is just going to keep... Yep, there he goes. He's just going to keep going. Besides, I've made plenty of mistakes. Call this a little sample of what I plan to do next. I want to read the Dracula book eventually. I know this is a pretty weird transference to the Dracula one, but basically what I'm saying is I want to read some older books, and I just wanted to start off with this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed, and I want to do more content like this. And until next time, I'll see you later. This has been Scarf Star. I'm a shooting star. Watch me crash and burn. And